Welcome everyone to the latest Burns and Admiral puppy parenting class. Today we're going to give you a minute for everyone to settle in, but yeah, we're really excited to be joined by Shannon Williams. Shannon is the Behaviour and Welfare Officer at Hope Rescue, and they're a dog rescue centre in Wales, and they help out some of the most vulnerable dogs in that area. And so I'll let Shannon give you an overview, and then we'll kind of jump into, you know, if you're interested in finding a rescue dog, how you should go about that, and some of the considerations you should keep in mind. So yeah, we'll give it another minute, and then we'll get started. So Shannon, just in terms of this class, well, obviously we know we're talking about finding the right rescue dog for you, for those people that are looking for a rescue dog. Would you just give us a quick overview of what you do in Hope Rescue? Obviously, I think as an intro, just so everyone kind of has an idea.
So we're based in South Wales, kind of 20 minutes away from Cardiff, and we primarily take in stray dogs. So we have the stray dog contract for 6 council areas in South Wales. So we take in directly from 3, and then we take all the unclaimed strays from another 3. So they do their stay in a local pound, and then if they're not claimed by an owner, they come into us then. So the majority of our dogs are stray dogs, and what we do is we assess them, get them ready for rehome, and then put them up on our website ready for their new homes. But we also take part in a lot of campaigning, especially around campaigns such as low welfare breeding. We do a lot with greyhound racing, trying to get that banned in Wales in particular, but hopefully a UK-wide ban as well. And also just looking at quite emotive campaigns like ear cropping and sort of like backyard breeding as well. So we do help local authority and other sort of agencies in seizure cases, so getting dogs out of quite rough situations, kind of rehabilitating them as well, and then sort of putting them up for rehoming when they're ready then. So it's a very busy setup here.
Thank you for that intro. I think to start off, do you want to talk about finding the right rescue dog for you? So how you should go about that?
Yeah, of course.
You know, I think you're an expert in that field, so it'll be great to hear your thoughts and advice on that.
Yeah, I think lots of people find going into rescues quite overwhelming. Each rescue will have a slightly different process for adoption, but generally there's quite a few little top tips that I would give people that are looking for a rescue dog. The easiest, obviously the first one to look at is the website. So it can be quite overwhelming when you go on a website for a rescue centre. I know with us we have about 9 pages worth of dogs for rehoming, so you often go on there and it's a bit spoiled for choice, or there's just too much information. But it's really important to sort of sit down with your family or those that are in your household and really have a think about what kind of dog you're looking for, and kind of what you're hoping to do with the dog as well. So it's about having a real discussion with everyone involved in this new dog's life of what you can provide and what you're looking for. So things like exercise. So how many times a day can you take the dog out? Are you looking for an active breed or someone that's going to be a bit of like a couch potato? Can you provide a dog with training? How much training would you like to give a dog? Is it just the basic sits and downs, or are you happy to take on a dog that might need more behavioural support, like things like dog reactivity or stranger reactivity? And it's also just looking at what you can realistically provide for that dog. So are you working full time? Are you looking for a dog that would be able to cope at home alone? And just really sort of thinking about those key little bits of your life and how that dog would fit into that, or how you'd like them to fit into that, before then going onto a website for a rescue, just so you have a good basis of what you're looking for. Because often you go on there and you go, so many cute dogs and lots of nice photos, where actually there's really important information on those website write-ups as well about the dog. So making sure you're reading that, because there is, although sometimes quite a limited amount of information on a dog's profile, there'll be some really important things on there. So what sort of setup they're looking for, can they live with children, dogs, animals, and things like that. So it's really important to have a look at that, as well as the very nice photos, and having a good, frank conversation with everyone in the house of just understanding what you're looking for, and trying not to be too swayed by the photos, because it is adorable and you do kind of go, oh, I want that dog because of how it looks. Well, actually it might need quite a lot of support in a home, and it's about being sort of understanding that there are dogs in rescue that need extra support. So it's not always your happy, friendly sort of family dogs. Typically there are quite a lot of dogs that might need extra support, but then you do get those that are really well rounded. I've got a little Jack Russell next to me who's one of those dogs. And then also, when you are applying to a rescue, making sure that you are putting lots of good information on your application. So most will go through an application process first, or definitely a conversation with rescue partners, just having a lot of information on your application, on what you're looking for and your home setup. So then when the behaviour team look at it, so like me, when I read an application, I want to know a bit more about that family setup, their day-to-day routine, and kind of what they're looking for, and get a good sort of feel for the people. So it's a lot easier for us to match up a dog to them then. And understand sometimes it takes time.
Yeah. If they are interested and they move ahead and they're going to adopt a dog, what would you say, whether it's a one owner or a family, what should they be preparing themselves for when they bring home a rescue dog? Because it is different to bringing home, an 8 to 12-week-old puppy.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really important first to do your research as well on maybe the breed, if you've never had the breed before, or examples like with puppies as well. If you have a younger dog that you're bringing in, making sure you know what that, as an adult, what sort of things they would need as well. But in terms of what you need to be prepared for, I think it's really important to realise that lots of dogs in rescue may have never lived in a home before, or if they have, then they haven't in a while because they've been in a kennel setup. So there is a settling in period that each dog would need, and need some support with settling in at home. And with us, because we do take in a lot of stray dogs, we have no history on the dog and where they've come from before, what they might have experienced. So it's definitely about having an open mind and having some patience and understanding that this can take time, and that the dog needs some time to settle in first. Some dogs that have lived in kennel setups may need support with like house training, especially if they've lived here in our kennels rather than our foster homes. They might need reminding of that. Some dogs will need support being left home alone, so might not be able to cope with a full day's work at home, but small increments of time they could build up to. And also just that, it's really overwhelming for them as well. And it's a big step for them and a big step for you. So there are going to be times where might be a little bit stressful or a little bit much. Just got to take some time, just have a breather, and sort of make sure that everyone is all sort of focused on helping this dog settle in as well. I think rescuing a dog is one of the most rewarding things you'll do. But with that, sometimes it can take time and quite a lot of effort and sort of understanding from owners. But it pays off in the long run. You open your hearts and homes to these dogs that need you, and it's amazing when you see them settling in a home. I think also on the puppy sort of aspect, that they do sometimes need confidence boosting as well, and slow introductions to new things in the home. So just to take your time with that. And some dogs, if they're under 6 months, will need neutering at some point, so always to consider that cost as well.
Yeah. I know we chatted yesterday, and one of the things I was interested in is obviously the process of adopting should you find a dog and you get approved. And you also mentioned something about a stray dog contract, which I'd not heard of before. So are you all right to talk around like that process and that contract as well for people that might be considering it and don't necessarily know?
Yeah, absolutely. So we hold the stray dog contract directly for 3 council areas. So that's RCT, Bridgend, and the west side of the Vale of Glamorgan in South Wales. So any stray dogs which are found in that area, so whether that be through the dog warden or through members of the public that have found, a stray dog on the streets, they will come directly into us, where we will often we will try and reunite with an owner, but often dogs aren't claimed, unfortunately, at the moment. I think we're at about a 30% claim rate. So for every 10 dogs that come in, only 3 go home. So it does mean that we are quite full. But so the dog does a 7-day sort of stray period with us. So that's the time where an owner can claim, and that's set by the council. So that's just a legal stray period that happens. And once the 7 days are up, if they haven't gone home, they haven't been claimed, then they then move into our ownership then, where we can then get the dog vet checked, vaccinated, neutered if it needs neutering, general sort of MOT in a vet, just to see if they need any extra pain relief or support medically. And then we also assess them behaviourally as well. So myself and the rest of the behaviour team will get the dog out and really assess them and what they may have experienced before, seeing how they cope in different situations. You know, do they like other dogs? How do they react to strangers? Just sort of seeing what they may have experienced before and what their reaction would be if they were to go home, and just really understand what kind of home setup that dog requires. Some are, like I said, pretty easygoing, very well-rounded. Some have obviously had quite a sheltered life before, may have never been in a home, or if they have, never have left the house, so need a lot of support in that area. So it's a real mixed bag with the types of dogs we get in, whether that's breed, age, medical considerations, and also just life experience. And then when we've assessed them and they're ready for rehoming, they'll go up on our website, where anyone can have a look at them and see what they think. And each dog will have a website write-up, so a little write-up about who they are, what home they're looking for, any sort of considerations. So does the dog need to be muzzled? Does it need extra support with certain types of training, maybe around dogs? And then also a couple of really cute photos as well. So the first part of our adoption process starts on the website. So there's a section called Adopt a Dog and How to Adopt, and then Dogs for Adoption. And on there's a huge range of different dogs that are available currently with us for adoptions. There's about 9 pages. So we encourage people to have a look at our website, see what sort of dogs are there and if there's any that they're interested in, and then they can put an application in for that dog. And like I said, making sure to put lots of information on there, so when I read it I can get a good kind of feel for what you're looking for and also what dog might fit into your home setup. And then if we find there's an application that really works for a dog, or even, oh, actually this dog would be really good for these people, we'll give you a ring, just chat to you a little bit more, just to get a little bit of a better understanding of what you're looking for, and have, you know, a normal conversation just like this, just about what you're looking for, so we can get a good idea. And if we match you up with a dog, then we'll organise you to come to the centre where you can meet the dog. Some dogs come from foster homes. You often meet their foster families as well, who can tell you all about sort of how they've been in a home setup. And then we just sort of spend some time getting to know each other, and also the dogs to you. If there's dogs in your home, then making sure they've built a good relationship. So we never really have a clear time frame for adoption and how many meets we need to do. It's generally just based on how each meet goes. So with puppies, for example, we often get adopters to come down. If they're 8 weeks old, then we can generally do a meet and adopt on the same day. So we meet everyone in the household, see how the interactions are. If all goes well, you can take your puppy home that day. Some pups need extra sort of support with getting to know new people, especially if they've come from like puppy farm situations. They might be a little bit more anxious. Sometimes we'll spend a little bit more time, maybe 2 meets. But with adult dogs, it can vary. It depends on what the dog's behaviour is and how much support they need getting to know new people. So just be prepared for sort of multiple meets to a centre, and not just with us, but with other rescue centres as well. We'll have the same sort of process that you might need to come down a couple of times. And then if all the meets are going really well and we think that the dog is now ready to move into your home and everyone's built a really good relationship, we'll do the adoption, which is always a really good day, where we'll get the dog ready to go home with you and send you off into the sunset then.
That actually brings me to my next question because I've seen we've got a few questions as well here. Basically, if this happens and you do get accepted and you go through the process and then the big day comes, how should you prepare for bringing a new dog into the home, especially one that's a rescue, obviously?
It's adoption days are always it's always the most fun because it's a really exciting time for you and the dog from the rescue centre, because it's, you know, you're bringing a new companion home and that dog is finally getting the chance to live in a home, which is amazing. It can be overwhelming for everyone involved as well. You know, it's a big step for everyone. So it is right to prepare before taking the dog home. So that is quite a smooth transition then. So before actually coming to the centre to collect the dog, make sure you've got lots of different bed options for the dog. So making sure you've got different spaces the dog can go to, and really looking at things like safe spaces. So people will often set up little corners in the room, or even like an open crate, so the door's left open and it's covered, so it's nice and calm and quiet in there. So if they get a little bit anxious or a little bit overwhelmed, which is understandable, they can just take themselves away and have a couple of minutes or half an hour just to themselves. Especially if you've got children in the house as well, it's definitely worth having a designated dog area, so the dog can just have 5 minutes just to decompress before coming back out. So that's the nice space to sort of sleep and chill out. It's also worth just making sure that you are prepared and patient, really, just making sure that you're taking each day as it comes, so that you are sort of really taking it nice and slow and you're not sort of panicking about moving the dog on too quickly. It's certainly about making sure that you sort of planned your days out a little bit, so that your dog has a couple of days just to settle in, so there's nothing big going on. And just making sure it's all nice and calm. But most rescue centres will need you to get things like a collar and a tag, so make sure you've got an identity tag on there for them. So if for some reason they get off, then at least they can call you. Making sure that you've got harnesses and leads for the dog as well, and all the sort of equipment you would need for the walks. Some dogs might need muzzles, some might not. So just looking at that and making sure you're asking the rescue centres all those important questions as well. And then with things like puppies as well, maybe setting up or making sure you've got enough sort of puppy toys, so things that they can chew on instead of mouthing at you, and making sure you've got all of those, almost like a toolbox ready for that dog to settle in as well. So it's important to talk to the rescue centre about things that the dog enjoys. So do they like chewing things? Do they like sort of soft toys, or how do they like to sleep, and understanding what that dog will need when coming home, so you've got everything ready for it. So it's just a lot smoother and you're not sort of running around once the dog is home as well. So yeah, just sort of taking your time and making sure you've got little bits ready. The puppies will often come home with like a blanket from either mum or the litter mates. That'll smell like them, just a bit more familiar, so that they also feel settled then. But yeah,
that's really useful. I think following on from that, I was keen to know, I guess this is probably more interest, what dogs or what breed of dogs do you most commonly see?
Yeah, it's like I said, we do get a mixed bag. So every day is you can get completely different dogs in, and we often get multiple dogs in either a day or sort of 10 a week, lots in. But we primarily see a lot of sort of staffies or lurchers, and often terriers as well in this area. And we do get a lot of those dogs in, but that can range from really young and adolescent dogs, and then also older dogs, maybe some with medical issues as well. So it's a bit of a range.
Okay, that's excellent. Thank you. We've had quite a few questions through, actually, so I'm just going to put a few up here. One of them was Robert, who's asked if people can adopt from you guys from Hope Rescue if they're not actually living in Wales.
Yeah, of course. So we've adopted all across the UK, so all the way up to the Scottish Highlands, down to Devon. So yes, absolutely. It does depend on the dog that you're applying for. So if, for example, there's a dog that might need extra behaviour support, so any behaviour kind of queries or concerns adopters have, us as a behaviour team will always help support. We do run a post-adoption service, so any questions you might have, we can help you out with. But some dogs might need more sort of one-to-one support with those at the centre, so more formal consultations on site. So you don't want to live kind of a long time away, otherwise it's hard for you to get back. Or if we need to do home visits, we often say homes within an hour of the centre, so that we can bring the dog out to the home and introduce them slowly in that setup. But yes, we do adopt out. It just depends on the dog.
Okay, excellent. I was going to ask you as well, because I know we were chatting about it, foster homes and how they work. So if you want to have a chat about that.
Yeah, so we're so lucky with our sort of foster home network. We've got a huge number of foster homes here. It actually allows us to almost double our capacity on site. So we can kind of hold a number of dogs in the centre, and then we can almost double that by holding dogs in foster homes as well. So it means we're able to help a lot more dogs than we would if we didn't have foster homes. And it's also an amazing asset for the dogs as well, that it allows them to understand and get to know home setups as well. So especially working with stray dogs, we don't know if they've lived in a home before, or like I said, some often have obviously never lived in a home before. So having foster homes, which are almost like our heroes really, that open their hearts and their homes to a dog that is in need and really does need our support, it means that we can get to know that dog a little bit more in a more realistic home setup than we can in kennels. Although we make kennels as nice as possible and we give the dogs as much as they need, it's not a home setup. So having actual homes that they can go into and learn and settle in that respect is amazing, and it does set them up for success when moving into their forever homes, because they've got a bit of experience there. So yeah, it's an amazing asset, and I think any rescue that has foster homes will probably kiss the ground they walk on, because it's amazing to have them.
Oh, that's brilliant. It sounds like a really rewarding experience as well to do that. How do you find those people? Do they come to you, or is it people in the local community you know?
Yeah, so we do get a lot that are in just sort of the area around the centre, because they know that we're here. We do run and put posts up on Facebook often, especially if we are taking in maybe like a large intake of dogs, or we are experiencing a large number of dogs coming in, whether we're sort of at capacity. Sometimes we can put shout outs on Facebook to kind of say we are looking to recruit more foster homes. But there is a part on the website that says fostering a dog and how to foster, and on there you can apply to foster with us. Our foster homes do have to be within an hour of the centre, just because it means that the dogs can come back for their adoption meets, and if there's any sort of vet visits that they need to do, they need to be able to come to our vets in Bridgend as well. So if anyone is interested in fostering, please head over to our website.
Brilliant, that's fantastic. I know this is quite a broad question, but what would you say are the most common reasons dogs are looking for new homes? I appreciate that's obviously quite broad, but we're going to touch on that.
Yeah, it is. But I think so. We obviously deal with a lot of stray dogs, and we don't know, and we will never know why they may have come into us and why they may have become a stray in the first place. Were they just genuinely lost, or were they abandoned? We don't know in that respect. However, we get a large number of surrender calls each day, and each month we probably experience about 140 surrender calls a month of people trying to surrender their dogs to rescue for a number of different reasons, some of which are really hard and really challenging situations. I think especially from the pandemic, we've seen a large number of dogs come into kennels, and a lot of people needing to surrender their dogs, and that could be down to the fact that they've obviously spent so much time at home, and then when they've moved back into theoffices or normal sort of life, the dog is now struggling to be able to be left and may be experiencing things like separation anxiety. There's also things like financial difficulties, and we know that the rising cost of living, and that's a huge strain on a lot of people, and owning a dog is expensive. It does come with costs, especially those with medical issues, and that could be a reason. We also see people in really, really difficult situations, whether that be through things like domestic abuse or homelessness, needing to leave their house for safety reasons, and then looking for someone to take in their dog. And then we do get a lot of dogs abandoned. We've seen quite a lot of dogs recently sort of tied up to fences and things like that. We, again, don't know why that's happened. I'm sure it's a very difficult situation as well, but there's a huge number of reasons. And I think veterinary costs is a big one as well, that we get a lot of dogs in with medical issues, that could be a reason why they've ended up as a stray in the first place. But also we've had a lot of dogs come into us because they've needed an emergency C-section. So lots of pregnant mums that have come in who need emergency C-section, but that's a lot of money for an owner to pay. And so they've decided to surrender the dog to us so that we can take mum straight to the vets to have that C-section that she needs to save her and her puppy's lives. And then we have sort of the pups there then. And we also see a lot of dogs come in via seizures from the local authority or organisations like Animal Licence in Wales that trying to kind of track down and get crack down on puppy farms and sort of backyard breedings. We often get lots of dogs from there as well.
Following on from that, we actually had a question off the back of that I'll show you. It's from Lewis, who's asked how you deal with people worried about being judged if they bring in a dog.
Yeah, it's such a difficult situation. But anyone that is going to give up their dog is going to be absolutely heartbroken by it, because a dog is your family member and you've had them anticipating having them for life. So it's such a difficult situation. We would never judge someone for coming in and being honest that they need to surrender their dog for whatever reason it is, because they are doing the right thing to approach rescue centres. We are in, particularly our centre, we're in quite a difficult situation that we are at capacity almost all the time because of our stray dogs, that we can't accept surrenders in as often as we would like because we need to have space for our stray dogs. But any rescue centre that you go to won't judge you for giving up your dog, because it is such a difficult situation and you are doing the right thing approaching a rescue centre. How to deal with it, I think, is more of a personal question to each person, but you should never feel like you're being judged in a rescue for needing to give up your dog. Certainly the team here would never be ones to judge.
Yeah, that's really good. I think for people who want to not necessarily adopt a rescue, but people who are looking to bring home a new puppy, I think they need to really bear in mind that it's such a huge commitment in the first place.
It is.
And I can imagine that you get a lot of people who just, after a few months or even a year, possibly just can't cope. And there are reasons where people's lifestyle might change. But we've done a few campaigns actually kind of highlighting making sure it really fits your lifestyle, even though it's hard to predict where you're going to be. But that's great. I've had another question through that I'm going to prop up on screen. It's about common issues people have when trying to settle a rescue dog in their home. I'm sure you've seen quite a few. It'd be great if you could.
Yeah, so I think one of the main things like settling overnight, because it's such a different setup. If the dogs come from kennels, it's a massive change. Even if you come from a foster home, it's still such a different setup that it's you're not in the right routine and things like that initially. I often say that just have as many options as possible. So if the dog is comfortable sleeping downstairs and that's what you want, then great. But if they're not, then do look at options of bringing the dog upstairs for getting a good night's sleep. We often say things like separation anxiety, that it's worth making sure everyone's getting a good night's sleep during the nights and then working on that separation during the daytime. I think that's one of our main things when we get adopters calling back or when we check in, is that settling. And it might be things like just getting used to the routine. Toilet training's a big one as well. Even those that are toilet trained can often have accidents in the house. But it's important just to not be too frustrated with the dog and making sure that you understand that it's just a big change for them. And just getting in the right routine. It's good to have a nice solid routine, and I think that really does help dogs to settle in.
Yeah, that's really useful. That's great. I think I was just going to ask you just about what would you say, and it's a bit general, but what would you say the average period of time is that you have a rescue dog there with you, between you and going to a foster home or its forever home?
That is a really difficult question, actually.
Sorry, I know. I thought that might be a bit tricky.
No, that's fine. We've got such a range of dogs that it does vary completely.
Because you were saying a puppy will go quicker, obviously.
Definitely, and that's generally just because the adoption interest is a lot higher. We've got about 176 dogs in our care at the moment, so it's a lot of dogs. And some of those dogs would have only been in a couple of days because they're in their stray period. Others have been in foster homes for over a year. Some are on palliative schemes as well, so they've been here for a while. Puppies, yes, they generally do go a lot quicker, but we would like them to go a lot quicker so that they are in their home setup and ready to sort of settle in as young as they can. So after the 8 weeks with mum, we are quite on it with getting them out as soon as possible. But we have a lot of adult dogs in which are here for a long time. We've got quite elderly dogs or those that are requiring some medical support, and they can stick with us for a long time. We've had dogs, a lot of our dogs here have been over 6 months in kennels, some even over a year. And we don't want them to have to stay in kennels for a long period of time because we want them in their home. So it completely varies. Some dogs, especially quite popular breeds, will go out quite quickly, but your staffies and your lurchers tend to stick around quite a lot.
Just out of interest, what are the popular breeds that would go quite quickly?
Usually your small fluffy ones. So things like cockapoos, shih tzus, poodles and things like that. We often find, no particular breed is difficult to rehome, but we often find them sticking with us for a little while. So your sort of elderly staffies or your elderly Jack Russells, like Jacko, who you can't see, but he's sat here. He's been with us for a while now as well, but that's purely because he's an 11-year-old Jack Russell, and people want younger dogs, but yeah, it completely varies.
Yeah, oh, that's lovely. Speaking of Jack Russells, we did, even though it's not a question, Perrin, who you can see her Jack Russell in her profile picture, wanted to say that she had her Jack Russell from a rescue, and he's now living his best life. And you've got one there, and I've got one behind me. So, yeah. Shannon, thank you so much. That was really, really helpful and really insightful. Just if anyone wants to contact you guys at Hope Rescue, what's the best way to reach out? Or
so our website is just hoperescue.org.uk. So head on to there for any extra information that you may need in regards to adoption or fostering. There's an option to have a website inquiry, or you can email us. So if it's about adoption, then you can email us on adopt@hoperescue.org.uk. You can message us on Facebook or give us a call. Our landline number is 01443 226659.
Thank you so much. And thanks to everyone for tuning in and listening to us have a natter about rescue dogs. Have a good day. Thanks.
Thank you for having me.